Hello, Instagram and online World Wide Web. Welcome to the Sunday Astrology series, Simple Basics Astrology 101 with Amityville Apothecary. Today we are going to talk about Saturn. Hi guys who are joining. I'm glad you're here. Hello. So funny. I have a little bit of a head cold, so forgive me if I'm a little scattered. I will try my best to stay on point. Of all the topics, Saturn's the most rigid and structured, so the fact that I'm a little fuzzy isn't really ideal, but I'll do my best. I have my trusty notes, and we will take it from there. So try to keep me honest. I've got a friend here who will help keep me on track too. So this series is intended to be basic foundation walkthrough of the different planets of astrology and the planets as are in each sign. So if you know what your natal chart is, yeah, I know, I see you, Rosa. You're already back with us. Welcome back. So if you have your natal chart, which is your birth chart, you can pull that up and see what sign your Saturn is in. This is a helpful series just to understand the personality of each planet and what each planet is in charge of. Because there's 10 different planets, and there's 12 different signs, and there's 12 different houses. So the more you understand what each of those mean, the purpose of this is just to break it down in very simple, easy ways, so that it becomes more personalized. And then it can get very complicated if you want to really dive into the study of astrology. It's been used for centuries, and civilizations have used it. The study of the planets and the stars as it relates to where you are in the universe. So it's a helpful tool. It serves as the blueprint of your soul. So the basic tenets is what my aim is, just to break it down in a simple way. So Saturn is this cute little sign. It looks like an H, like a little fancy H with a cross at the top. I read something that said it can represent, it made me laugh. What did it say? Hold on, I circled it. It can represent hard or possibly even hellish because Saturn is the planet of restriction and structure and authority and discipline, but also integrity. So keywords associated with the planet of Saturn: it's the planet with rings. It is known as one of the last planets that you can view with the visible eye. So it makes sense if you think about limits. This is the planet of limitation, karma, strength, perseverance, discipline, restriction, law, and authority. Life lessons, obstacles, and tradition are all keywords associated with Saturn. I always like to kind of delve into the structure of the symbol. So like I showed you, it looks like an H with a fancy H and a little cross at the top. So these notes say metaphysical astrologers describe it as the cross of matter, which is the cross at the top, and then circumstances rising out of the crescent of personality. So since it's downward, it suggests that humans create their own limitations and must find ways to confront them or how to deal with them. So while Saturn does bring restriction and discipline and structure, that also forces us to persevere. So how do we overcome obstacles and challenges in life? Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. For any of you who don't know me, my name is Danielle, and I'm one of the co-owners of Amityville Apothecary. Dina is my colleague. She teaches most of the classes. I usually am somewhere in the background running around, so I'm here for astrology, and I'm always here to help you. So it's nice to see you all today. So I think Saturn is a slightly misunderstood planet. I used to really struggle with Saturn, but I have a great respect for it. It takes 29 years approximately to circle around the sun in the solar system. So it takes 2.5 to 3 years to transition between each zodiac sign. Right now it's currently in the sign of Pisces. So we'll talk about, your sun sign. So we'll talk about what that means when Saturn is in Pisces, because that's affecting the whole of humanity right now here on Earth. So Saturn will stay in the sign of Pisces until May 24th, 2025. Okay, so it's in that sign. So that energy will affect everybody collectively. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means. So what the sign of Saturn represents in your natal chart, what it means to you personally when you look at the sign, so you understand like what it's in charge of ruling. It's in charge of representing where you must take responsibility and where you must learn life lessons. Okay? And then for the collective, what that means is, so as I said, Saturn's in Pisces right now. It represents in life global structures, government, and collective karma. Saturn rules Capricorn. So the qualities of Capricorn are very synonymous with the qualities of Saturn. Okay. Saturn retrograde, when it happens, it occurs for 5 months. And that period of time, gives us the opportunity to rebuild. So Saturn is known, I was taught to understand Saturn as the great teacher. Okay, so it provides that structure and discipline and restriction so that you learn the lessons and you grow from it, and it makes you stronger and more effective. So if you put in the work and if you do the work, you will be rewarded. So it's not just for like nothing. There's a purpose that it does serve. So when things go retrograde, it's a time to bring it internal. Saturn teaches us the lessons we need to learn. It does have an energy of strict authority, sometimes severity, but discipline and authority definitely. So Saturn, the position in your birth chart will reflect the influences of the level of responsibility and maturity that you have towards different aspects. It can help illuminate challenges, which also helps us understand the opportunities for growth in our lives. So, for example, it will reflect what areas you are disciplined in and what areas should you be disciplined in if you're not currently. Where do you have structure and where do you need it? Where do you face your biggest obstacles? And most importantly, how do you handle those obstacles? Because we always have choice, right? So oftentimes, and as we go through the different zodiac signs, you will see that Saturn does impose limitations, but it brings realism to whatever you're facing. And it will remove any delusions or things that are not aligned with the success in overcoming those challenges. It's going to be very grounded in reality, and it's going to make you work for it. So it gives us the opportunity to grow. And as you put in the work, you'll be all the more prepared to handle those things, not only now, but moving forward. So that as you get older, those things come with more ease because you're learning the lessons. So as I mentioned, collectively, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. So what does that mean? So Pisces is a sign. It's the last sign in the zodiac wheel, and it's a water sign. It's a mutable water sign. So water signs are very emotional, and Pisces in particular is highly spiritual and dreamy. So there are polar opposite ends. You have the planet of restriction and structure and discipline in the sign of Pisces, which is like a floaty fish. It's like, woo, dreaming around in emotion. So they're at a juxtaposed opposition. Hold on a minute. 1 second. I'm teaching a class.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Which is actually ironic because that's actually not the sign where my Saturn is.
What's your Saturn?
Aries.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about it.
So I'm kind of scared about like.
No, it's good. It's good for you. And we'll talk about what that means. So, what can we expect from Saturn being on Pisces? So since Pisces is a mutable water sign, it's very sensitive and tender-hearted. Saturn, in its nature, is the opposite of that. So they meet somewhere in the middle. So we can get difficulties. We will be able to experience, or we will experience difficulties in creating boundaries and structure sometimes. And then also reality and fantasy can tend to blur because there are polar opposites, right? So floating around in the middle is reality and fantasy sometimes blurring. And then intuition and emotions sometimes will take over above reason, which is interesting because Saturn is all about reason, structure, details, material, tangible evidence. So being that it's in the sign of Pisces until 2025, that's a little bit like people can get caught up in fantasy. Also, spirituality is very heightened right now. So people are feeling that collectively, and being the owner of a metaphysical shop, I can attest to that. So some ways to cope with the collective energy being what it is try to just be open-minded and go with the flow, and try not to overwhelm yourself with worrying too much about like details, and to try to be present and be in the moment right now, and that will help you navigate the dichotomy of Saturn being in Pisces. Okay, so what does it mean for each sign? Okay, Saturn when it's in the signs. So you said that
it was in Aries.
Saturn is in Aries for you. Okay, so Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and that is the fire starter.
Which got me worried.
No, it's okay. It's okay because Aries is a fire sign that's like hot out of the gates because it's a cardinal fire sign, so that's a fire starter. But it's somewhat tempered by the structure and discipline of Saturn. So it's a good thing. For those with Saturn in action-oriented Aries, the obstacles are many, putting a drag on the drive of Aries, because Aries sometimes will act first, think later. So it's gonna like slow. Saturn will slow the momentum of Aries, but the reason why is because it wants to teach the lessons. Okay, so by doing that, it's gonna put some obstacles and roadblocks in your way, but the purpose of that is so that you take your time and actually really learn the lesson. So it's going to benefit you, especially in the latter part of your life, the second half of your life, because the obstacles that you face are going to become more easy to handle, because you'll be like, oh, I've got that. I learned the lesson. So that's why I say, like, when it's a great teacher. When you do the work, it will just benefit your growth. Okay? Let's see. What else did I want to say? Okay. You also tend to be a very independent thinker. That's very Aries.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, very. And also very entrepreneurial and determined and disciplined. The thing you have to be cautioning about is not to be inconsiderate or domineering if you have that placement. So if you're given a goal and a game plan, you can do very, very well adding that structure that Saturn brings with it. So the thing is, you have to determine what that goal is. Like, no one can tell you what that is. You have to really like feel it and internalize it, and then you'll be very successful as you accomplish it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes so much
sense. It resonates? Yeah? Okay.
I think that makes more sense. I really thought it was going to be something really, really
No, and that's the thing. Like, the beauty of understanding astrology is once you understand the energy, you can learn how to work with it, and it's not scary.
I always feel like that those two things are gonna, like, you know,
they don't really butt heads. They can be very complementary, but you just have to keep
like it's a ram and a goat. What makes you think they're not gonna?
They can, but they also could be very strong, and they can persevere if used properly. So the next one is Taurus, which is the bull.
Another horned animal.
Yeah. So the next sign is Taurus. So if your Saturn is in Taurus, the Taurus is the bull. It is material earth sign. It's a stubborn earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign. So you bring that structure and detail orientation paired with Taurus that loves that earthly groundedness. So remember, Saturn's restricting. So what happens with Taurus that loves creature comforts and love and money, it can create a feeling of scarcity mentality with love and money. So then you can tend to become stingy and like it can scare you a lot. So don't go too far off the deep end with that. So because you don't want to become afraid of life, of what does this mean without love and what does this mean without wealth, that you become like so afraid. So you can become like a penny pincher or stay in relationships that don't serve you because you're so afraid of the other option of not having that. But don't stay in a situation that's not healthy, because that's fear-based. So Taurus is a very strong bull, so it's very determined. And if used properly and you stay the course and you follow your truth, it can be very abundant because you're going to stay the course to execute a plan to fruition. So that's where, and then they share very generously once they achieve that. So, any sign has a positive and a negative connotation or potential. So instead of getting caught up in fear-based scarcity mentality for love and wealth, focus on like, okay, here's the plan that we're going to execute and we're going to just stay the course until we succeed. And that is much more abundant and much more healthy. And you can't fail because you will just keep going and staying the course until you succeed. So that will lead to you learning how to manage your resource effectively and becoming very industrious, prudent, and methodical, which is perfectly aligned with Taurus. So just don't become like a hoarder or like obsessed with like earthly pleasures. That's the downside of it. So don't do that. But it can be very abundant for you if you do the work. So Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. It's very emotional.
I think you skipped over Gemini.
I did. Thank you. See, this is my head cold making me totally loopy. Thank you. Gemini. Yes, air sign. Gemini. Mutable air. So that's communication, intellect. So this is very good because Gemini has many interests, but Saturn will help be disciplined in organization. So smart, serious, articulate. You have to be careful. Like you don't want to overthink things and think that like, oh, they're going to judge me and think that I'm like not smart enough or intellectually inferior. So that's one of the risks that come with Saturn trying to restrict. So Gemini is an excellent problem solver. They're constantly thinking about all different interests and all different topics and all different subjects. So the structure and discipline of Saturn can be very good, but you have to focus your concentration, which isn't always easy. So that's part of the work that Gemini has to do. So you can't just flit all of your interests in every direction. You're not going to be effective with that. So it's going to help you bring that organization, and then it will be very successful for you as Saturn's teaching you the lessons of how to harness that energy. So Gemini further boosts the sign's intellectual capabilities and its natural dedication to gaining knowledge and insight and intellect. So it will Saturn will lend pragmatism to Gemini's natural wit and curiosity. Mm-hmm. So it can be extremely beneficial. Cancer,
Earth sign and like earth signs, they usually kind of like go together.
Well,
Usually,
Saturn, it's, Saturn's a planet, so.
Well, no, without like that element of.
It definitely is an earthy, grounded planet, so it will like bring everything down and be like, let's ground this in reality,
Yeah, that's how.
So Gemini, that's like, let's go here, like flitter, flutter, flitter. It's gonna say like, all right, let's bring order, and like that can be education, that can be organization, that could be vocation, but how is that structured? Let's rein that in, and then it'll help Gemini soar.
And I feel like Cancer's going to be like the same thing too, because the earth and the water kind of like.
It can. Cancer is a tricky one. It's not easy because Cancer is very sensitive and very nurturing, but with restriction. Oftentimes there can be early childhood issues of like nurturance, like they don't feel like they're getting the nurturance that they want.
Oh.
So if it's in your natal chart as a Saturn in Cancer, sometimes early childhood you might have it in your chart or in your life's path that you might have like a little lack of nurturance there from a parent. So it can lead to insecurity or being reserved or inhibited, and then part of your lesson is to come up with emotional control and stability because Cancer's so sensitive. It's such a water sign. So that can sometimes propel somebody on a life's path, like seeking love. So, but love has to come from within, right? And like acceptance. So that can just lead to be too clingy. You know what I mean? Or like really too needy for love rather than finding the comfort and the vulnerability within your own self. So it's just, again, understanding the energy because, there's a train of thought I personally prescribe to that we do chart our own course before we even come to this earth. And our natal chart is our stamp of our life's path. It's our blueprint of our life and the work that we're meant to do here during this lifetime. So I think when we come into it, maybe that's part of the lessons that you wanted to learn as we ascend our soul and that we do our soul's work, our soul growth work.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. So, let's see. It says some people with this placement may become clingy or cover up their fear of vulnerability by acting overly confident or indifferent. But again, it's all, most people attempt to create in adulthood what they lacked in childhood by becoming tolerant, protective, loving parents. So you can use it and say like, well, I may have lacked this protection or this stability or this emotional nurturance as a child, so I'm going to pour that onto my own children. So it can be very healthy once you learn the lesson and once you get comfortable with doing that, how you're not going to repeat those patterns and you're going to do it differently. Let's see. Yeah, really the key thing is overcoming emotional signs of feeling of insecurity and coming to terms with vulnerability and creating connections of healthy intimacy. That's a big life challenge for Cancer, Saturn and Cancer. Leo is the next sign. I was born with Saturn in Leo. And Leo is a very big fire sign energy. It's a fixed fire sign energy. So you think about the heat of the sun that we experienced yesterday. It can be oppressive.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
very big.
I was feeling it.
It's very big. So Leo is ruled by the sun and it's very big. They crave the spotlight by nature. So restricting that, it's very devastating if they aren't feeling like they're being viewed as special. So with Leo, with me, it's very interesting. In my chart, my Saturn's in Leo and it's conjunct my moon in Leo. So they're like right on top of each other. So I have my feelings in my moon, that's all my emotions in Leo, which feels so big and I need to be seen, I need to feel loved, I need to feel special. And then I have Saturn, the planet of restriction, on top of that. So it's very like my life's work is to not have to like feel validation from somebody else, but to know that I am valuable in my own right and to know my own self-worth. So that, I think, is part of the lesson that Saturn delivers. So Leo, as the feelings are so big, to say like, yay, see me, look at me, recognize me, I'm here. So once you can understand that, like, Saturn may make you feel more restricted by that, that's part of the work. So Leo's a very regal sign, so it can help. The repository of energy that Leo has for great responsibility. Think about the lion. He's like the head of the pride. Mm-hmm. Leos can handle a lot of responsibility. So there's great warmth, there's great leadership. So Saturn will try to quell that feeling of playfulness and like feeling big and expressing themselves. Like usually a Leo loves an audience, so Saturn can try to restrict that. So it's finding that balance and comfort there. Let's see.
So it makes Leos more humble.
It can make them more humble. So this right here says it very well. And being a Saturn and Leo, I can relate to this. Determined and dignified. You long to be creative, but you're afraid of expressing yourself. You want to be recognized, yet you're terrified of being viewed as mediocre. So like the feelings and the creativeness all reside within, but you're almost afraid to put it out there because you don't want others to view you as mediocre or less than. So that's part of the challenge. So it's to acknowledge it, acknowledge your need for recognition in a healthy way, and then figure out ways to achieve it without becoming like braggadocious or like too narcissistic or like demanding. Like you don't want to throw a temper tantrum, but there are constructive ways that you can still creatively express yourself and be seen and to contribute in a healthy way. So Saturn will help you find those healthy outlets. Mm-hmm. But it's not comfortable.
Oh, no. No,
yeah.
probably not. It's like being in a cage.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So let's see. You could use creative urges. Your creative urges need dramatic expression and positive acceptance. So overcome a tendency towards arrogance. Dare to be dramatic and have fun in a healthy way. Okay? So then the next sign after Leo is Virgo. And that's a very earthy, practical sign to begin with. So there's natural synergies there. Okay? So Virgo is already very disciplined and loves work and loves structure. Their brains just naturally work that way. So I would say the two closest signs to Saturn, I would say, is Capricorn, which is ruled, but then Virgo, I think, is right there too. So, let's see. When your Saturn is positioned in Virgo, its disciplined nature ups the sign's natural pragmatism. Intellectual capabilities are heightened, and Virgo's attention to detail can become even more prominent. You're a Saturn in Virgo. Cool, Monica. I love how you always have your chart ready so that you understand what it means. It's cool. So what you have to be careful of, because it's like a double dose of organization and structure, do not get too caught up in the details, because that will not only be annoying, but it will prevent you from achieving the big picture. Okay? The devil's in the details. So you can get like really mired in the details, and it will prevent you from progressing.
It's funny.
So, yeah.
It's actually funny you said the devil's in the details, because since Saturn is in Capricorn, is actually the sign of the devil card.
The devil. That's right. That's right, from the tarot. So Saturn is represented.
I'm actually trying to... Oh, there it is.
By the devil.
There it is.
Oh, yeah, right here. It's Bahamut.
Back from it, right?
Yeah, I'm not good at pronouncing that, but yes. I don't know if you could see it in the camera behind me. Oh, it's over here.
Here, I can use the camera.
Right here. Yeah.
That better?
So that's it. That's the devil card. It resonates. She's saying it resonates so much. Oh, good. So the thing is, it's like, sure, can we always get more detail oriented? Can we always refine? Yes. but you're not going to reach the end goal if you're constantly like focusing on like the tiny little detail that in the grand scheme of things is not going to matter for the end result. So you're already analytical, but don't become too worried or too over-industrious or get drawn into solitude by too much work, because that's the possible downside of it. So the fear-based side is you can fear losing control. So, that's a control thing. Ritual definitely relaxes you, and you love routines. So just make sure that your routines don't restrict you. Yeah, don't limit, confine, and overwhelm you. So it's got to be a healthy balance between like real life and then like workaholism and like too much detail. Again, Saturn does serve its purpose. It's the thing about Saturn, when you put the work in, it does reward you. It does make your life better when you actually do the work required that Saturn demands. It's very demanding. And we'll talk about what your Saturn return means too once I go through the signs. So the next sign is Saturn in Libra. So Libra is the scales. It's all about balance. It's a natural, comfortable position there because it's also like justice, right? And Saturn represents like authority and business. So Saturn positioned in Libra can create a fair-minded judge. So someone that has an innate and impartial sense of balance. Because again, it's structure. It likes structure and discipline. So Saturn's discipline helps them control Libra's charm. They can be very complementary. So in terms of Libra, one of the challenges of having Saturn in Libra is the realm of love and relationships. So you have to learn how to grow and connect with another person, because Saturn tends to be very like structured and authoritarian. So if Libra's all about working with others, you can't be too rigid in what you want. So you have to find that healthy balance in relationship. So like you're very rational, you're very reliable. Libras historically are discreet and serious. But a downside of that restriction that comes with Saturn is you fear being alone. So like the interpersonal connection with others can be a little overwhelmed or stressed when you're trying to connect with other people. So, yeah, in my notes it says like you're always willing to negotiate and to communicate with others. So use that wisely to your advantage. So if Saturn's the planet of structure and discipline, restriction, yes, but like use the discipline to come up with like healthy guidelines to guide you rather than have it be like rigid. Don't be too rigid, especially when you're dealing with other people, because we can only control our own actions, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, good. So Saturn in the next sign of the zodiac wheel is Scorpio, and they actually get along really well, which is interesting because Scorpio is all about going into the depths. So Scorpio is a water sign, and Saturn, Saturn is discipline, but Scorpio is really good at like seeing more than meets the eye, and Saturn is more about like getting down to the nitty-gritty of things. So the discipline paired with the sign's emotional depth and intelligence Sorry guys, I put my do not disturb and they broke through. So, every week. I hope you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay, please. Okay.
We were doing Scorpio, right?
Scorpio, yeah. So Scorpios are able to have a keen understanding of the motivation and behaviors of others, because that comes naturally for Scorpio, that they Thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up. I'm glad I'm glad that call didn't derail my class. So Scorpio naturally has the natural ability to like sit back in the shadows and observe the things that a lot of people don't normally see. So the structure of Saturn, thank you. I appreciate the confirmation. The structure of Saturn works very well with this. So the thing that Scorpios need to take, the Saturn Scorpios need to watch out for is they have to come from a place of honesty and not dominate and manipulate others, because they have a propensity to be able to use that information to their advantage. But if it's not coming from a place of integrity, remember Saturn's a planet of integrity. So if you're doing all the honest, good work of what's in alignment with your highest and greatest good, you will be rewarded. If you use it in a way that's not ethically on the up and up,
which is a problem for Scorpio in general, because they're always sneaky, they're underhanded, they'll always go under you and then just pop
see
up.
But that's the bad rap that they get. They're not always underhanded. It's just the ones who choose to be underhanded. So it's like, do you use your power for good or do you use your power for not good? And it's always personal choice. You have the power to make that choice. But if you don't do what's in accordance with the highest and greatest good, then it can lead to scandal. But then the power of Scorpio is we learn from our mistakes and then we become stronger in that birth, death, and rebirth, like the phoenix. Mm-hmm. You learn from those experiences and then you ascend. So just that's a cautionary tale for Scorpio. So, don't delve into jealousy and resentment. Use the courage to deal with your problems and conquer your fears. Listen, that includes the fear of death, because Scorpio is all about sex, death and rebirth. So, mysteries really fascinate you. So a Scorpio with a great sense of purpose is like unstoppable, really. So pair that with Saturn. It can be very powerful. Saturn in Sagittarius, the next sign. So Sagittarius is all about higher learning. Oh, you're Aquarius. Okay, cool. We'll get to that one. Saturn in Sagittarius will... Sagittarius thinks big, goes big, wants to learn all the things, wants to experience all the things, wants to grow. Philosophy. So... Saturn's going to restrict that. So patience will be tried over and over and over again if you have Saturn in Sagittarius. But again, it's to help you learn those life lessons. So you have to, not everything comes quick. You have to drive, Saturn will help drive home the importance of hard work and perseverance. And then as they do persevere, they will meet success. Mm-hmm. But Sagittarians are like, let's go travel the world, let's go do this. And Saturn's like, whoa, let's rein it in. Let's have structure. And you want to go because you're a fire sign. And Saturn's like, let's slow our horses a little bit. No wonder
Saturn's so slow. It won't let anyone go.
Correct. That's why it takes 29 and a half years to, yes. So don't fence me in is Sagittarius's motto for adventure, travel, horizons, learning, philosophy, everything. And then here comes Saturn that's like, whoa, let's just come up with some structure and some goals that are palatable and manageable. And then bite-sized pieces. So you can still do it, but let's make it smaller. And then Saturn's like, let's go. And it's like, let's do it in chunks. Make sense?
Yep. So it's not like a short leash. It's not like it's on a short leash or anything, right?
It's not a short leash. It's creating structure. Whereas a fire sign is all about passion and action. Saturn's like, I love the vision. Let's bring the structure. How are you going to do that? And Sagittarius is like, let's go. And Saturn's like, again, how? Let's go with a plan. So that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very, very, that may be education. That may be a blueprint for how you're going to achieve a certain career path or a certain milestone. But you need a plan to get there. So it's going to bring that structure, and then when you achieve it, you're going to be rewarded for it. So, again, we're bringing discipline. Some signs like discipline better than others. You're Saturn and Leo. I did do that already. I'm a Saturn and Leo too. So we feel really big. And Saturn is like, let's just quell that a little. So it makes us feel a little insecure because we want to feel like we're seen and recognized and special. And Saturn's like, you're not so special. Go rewatch the replay, Rosa. Let me know what you think about it. It's challenging because Leo feels really big. That's just the sun that shifted.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Yeah, I'm in a brightly lit room, and then the clouds just came over, so that's why you may see changing light. Okay, Saturn and Capricorn. It's home. So Saturn is positioned in its native sign of Capricorn. It imparts ambition, determination, and fierce independence. What they may face is obstacles with their path to success, but then it's only going to underscore their desire for self-reliance. So this drive to do everything for oneself can potentially lead to loneliness, and the challenge may be to find the partner that they let themselves truly rely on. So that's like part of the challenge for Capricorn. So this is in its natural state. It's like very comfortable there. You are capable, you're ambitious, you're very pragmatic and structured. You have a natural authority and competence about how you go about things. You're very like serious. So it's not that you like restrictions, but you know how to work well with structure and restrictions in place. So you know how to navigate it and deal with that. You have to be careful for a tendency towards depression, just because it's a lot of restriction. So it's in its natural state. It's kind of like Eeyore, right?
Yeah.
But it's okay. As long as you just keep a healthy balance of it and a recognition of it, and then you find that partner that you work well with, then it can be a very beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It's just anybody in life. Like, learn how to operate with that. And, yeah, it's in its natural state. It's an excellent placement. You'll get a lot done. Saturn in Aquarius. So somebody just signed on and said they're Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is an air sign. Even though it has the squiggle water, it's a water bearer because it holds space for emotions. Doesn't mean that it is a water sign. It's not. It's an air sign. So Saturn's disciplined energy brings a wonderful pragmatism to Aquarius because Aquarius has grand visions and ideas about humankind. They want to further humanity. Sorry, honey.
Oh, no, that was Chucky.
Oh, it was Chucky the doll. Okay. Yeah, Ruby has a little doll. It looks like that scary horror movie, Chucky. So Aquarius is all about like the betterment and thinking out of the box on behalf of all of humanity. But then Saturn creates that discipline and that structure for how to go about doing it. So it can take that big idea and put it into creation. Like, here's how you go about doing it. So it can be very, very effective. Aquarius naturally does tend to like think out of the box, but also be independent loners. So watch out for isolation and loneliness. But like if you use it and learn how to harness that energy for the betterment of mankind, then you work with other like-minded progressives, people that are coming up with new ideas in think tanks, perhaps. And then you say, how do we best accomplish this? How do we work together to achieve this at scale? It could be very, it's very unselfish. Aquarius is a sign. It's a very social, socially minded.
It's quirky.
Socially minded. It's very quirky. Like, they don't like convention.
That's what the Q in Aquarius actually stands for.
Yeah. So Aquarius does not like conventional thinking, but the structure of Saturn can be effective towards like bringing new ideas to scale. And it's very disciplined and principled as a whole. So, yeah. And then Saturn in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign. It is a water sign. We are in Pisces right now. Saturn is in Pisces right now. So, the current energy right now, it says, for those with Saturn in Pisces, they may find that they seek out the structure of spiritual practice. The sign's disciplined energy can turn the sign's dreamy ruminations into very creative work, bringing otherworldliness down to earth. So that's channeling all those messages that we receive through like Piscean energy and then bringing it to reality here on earth. So one of the challenges, as we discussed a little bit earlier, is the realm of emotion, because Pisces feel everything and they're so intuitive and so sensitive, and they feel everything so deep. So a challenge is like, how do you keep that in check with Saturn? So also with Pisces, you tend to feel the emotions of others and think on behalf of the other people, but like you also have to focus on yourself, solving your own problems and bringing that structure and discipline into your own life. So establishing routines can be very, very helpful. One of the heightened risks that also corresponds with Pisces is there is a stronger propensity for escapism, which can lead to addictions. So beware of that. Because that will just derail you entirely. So that's like one of the risks. But again, if you just do the work, you're going to be rewarded. So the thing that I was saying earlier about your solar return, because Saturn takes 29 and a half years to circle the sun, what's called the Saturn return, not solar return, the Saturn return happens around 29 years old, and then in your 50s, and then in your 80s. Remember, you're dealing with planets circling the Earth. So if it's 29, 30, 27 and a half, like around there, you'll start feeling the effects. But usually around 29. And even if you look at like a lot of movie stars or musicians, a lot of them die at the age of 29. And
you're talking about the 27 Club.
Yeah, right.
Not the 29 Club, the 27 Club.
Right, but it's all around that age, because what happens when Saturn circles and it comes back to where it was at that time that you were born, Saturn's a great teacher. It brings that discipline and structure, right? And if your life is aligned with where it should be in accordance with your highest and greatest good, then you're really not going to feel any sort of dramatic push or pull one way or another, because you're going to be in alignment with your life's path of like where you're supposed to be in terms of your life's purpose and making all good choices, because we always have free will to make decisions. Operating in integrity, your greatest and highest good, you know, your life's path. And like when you know you're in the flow of things, when you're in alignment, things just happen naturally and like ease. They come with ease and flow for you. But if you're not, you're going to be handling like a lot of challenges in your life. Life is going to be hard. You might find yourself with homelessness or financial challenges or like addictions, as I was talking about. So with those musicians and those movie stars that died at around that age, if you're not in alignment and you're getting caught up with too much fame and too much drugs and too much influence and too many wrong choices and too much like greed, and it's just not, you're totally misaligned, Saturn's going to try to bring you back into alignment with your highest and greatest path. Like that's what it does. So if you do the work, you will be rewarded. But if you're not in alignment, it's going to universally like pull the rug out from under you to try to get you back into alignment. And with evolution, sometimes you're going to survive that, and sometimes it's not going to work out well for you. And I don't know. Some people might disagree with what I'm saying, and that's totally fine. You don't have to agree. But it's one thought, it's one train of thought that, it's kind of like working with the crystal moldavite. Moldavite is a tektite. It was created when a meteor came from outer space and collided with the earth. So when you work with moldavite, people are like, it's a stone of transformation and change, but it's not a gentle stone. It's not a forgiving stone. If you work with that crystal, it will put you into alignment with your highest and greatest good. But if you were in a dead-end job that you hate and you're just staying there because you don't have the motivation to get another job or interview, or you just have been putting it off, guess what? You might find that you're laid off, or the rug will get pulled out from under you. If you're hanging out and surrounding yourself with people that really aren't aligned with you and they're no good and they're all talking about each other, if they're talking about each other, then they're also talking about you. You might find out about a betrayal. So it's something irreversible that it's always before and after. And there's no reversing it.
It sticks with you.
It's the universe pulling that out of your life for a reason, so that gets eliminated and that you're back in alignment with your highest and greatest good. That is what Saturn does in your life. So that's why the symbol looks like an H with a little cross at the top. Mm-hmm. That's why it says hard or hellish, because it's up to you. If you are making decisions in accordance with your greatest good, then you're really not going to feel a lot of tension around that age, because you're going to be I'm pretty aligned. You might feel a little course correction. But if you're in this miserable marriage and it's not serving you and you know it in your heart, but you're I just haven't done it, something's going to happen. It's going to remove that right out of, so that you can get back on path. Yeah. So that's why it's a great teacher. So it's with great risk comes great responsibility, right?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, whatever it may be, whatever that is. That's Saturn. That's the energy of Saturn. So what time is it? 5:24.
5:24.
Normally I go into the different houses. I don't have time to go into all of the different houses right now. But if you think about what we talked about, the purpose of what Saturn does. It says Saturn's position by house. So if you look at your natal chart and you see what house your Saturn resides in. Mine resides in the 8th house. Mm-hmm. So you can see where your house. It determines those areas of life in which you feel the pinch of limitation and where you'll benefit from establishing boundaries, creating structures, and practicing self-discipline. So evaluate where your Saturn resides. Where's yours?
6.
Okay. Just really quickly, I'll run down what each of the houses is in charge of. And then you could figure out okay, Saturn's in this house, so here's what it means. And you can also, Google and go deeper if you want. But the first house is the house of self. So it's going to be all things related to your personal identity, your appearance, and your personality. So again, restriction, structure, discipline, integrity as it relates to these houses. Limitations, some lessons there. Where do you have to establish boundaries or ritual or structure? The second house is possessions. It's the house of possessions. So that can include money, your resources, your tangible material things, and wealth. Okay? The third house is the house of communication. That can include language, knowledge, your environment, etc. The fourth house is the house of home. So that's your family life, your home life, as well as your roots, your ancestry. So as it relates to boundaries and structure there. The fifth house is all about the house of pleasure. So it's things that bring you pleasure. Your creativity, the type of fun that you have, as well as romance. Any type of pleasure falls into that category. Where do you need the structure? Where are there limitations? Where do you need boundaries? Where do you need ritual? Where do you need routine? So, there's a big swing there. 6, health. That's the house of health and wealth. So it's being of service to others. It's your wellness routine, being of service, as well as your work. So, that's all, get regular checkups, establishing regular routines. All of that is chores and responsibilities. So, and health, your overall physical health, being disciplined with that. So Saturn in the 7th house is all about partnerships. So that can include commitments, relationships, adversarial relationships. Those all require structure and restriction and discipline. The 8th house, sex and death. It relates to intimacy, transformation, as well as mysticism. The 8th house is one of the more mystic houses, as well as the 12th house. The 8th and 12th houses.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. The 9th house is all about philosophy and higher learning. So exploration, knowledge, and expansion. So you have a lot of big ideas. You love ideas. You love philosophy. So you can be like an educator, a writer, a publisher, lawyer. So how do you use Saturn to your benefit to create that structure? Social status is reflected in the 10th house. So that can include your career, your image, your public image, as well as your legacy. Let's see. Thinking about Saturn, it's all about like paying your dues. You don't just arrive and say like, I have arrived. Like that's, so how do you achieve success? 11th house is all about friendships. So that's inclusive of your community, your social groups, and all of mankind as a whole. And then the 12th house is all about the subconscious, what lies beneath the surface. So secrets, self-undoing, transcendence, spiritual principles, and then that which is unseen. That can include your dreams, your shadow work, and the healing that is required. So I hope this is helpful. We covered a lot of ground. The 12th there. Okay, good. I hope that makes sense. Have fun delving into that because that's a very spiritual house. So I hope this is helpful. We will post this on Instagram as well as on YouTube. And as always, let us know if you have questions. Next week is Uranus. Yeah, so I will do that one. And have a great week, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.